welcome to Zombie Bites Damien. I'm Damien, and today we're checking out VHS 94, the cool little horror anthology movie that was released direct to Shudder back in October this year. Direct to Shudder. And direct to Shudder just isn't the same as direct to video or even direct to Netflix. Shudder really do take risks on movies that you just wouldn't expect to see anywhere else. And that's why we get so many zany, over-the-top, gory movies from them, like Beelzebub or Terrified or the hella fun Satan's Slaves. And that's not to say that they're all classics, but mostly they're really fun. Remember, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to click subscribe for more horror content. So this movie came out in October. Why did it take me so long to review it? Well, I only started the channel a few weeks ago, so there's that. That being said, even though it was released direct to Shudder, it still took me a long time to try and get on board to actually watch VHS 94. And if you'd seen VHS Viral, you'll understand why. Now, I absolutely loved the original VHS when it came out back in 2012. Flying Succubus! The stories were genuinely exciting, they were spooky, they were well made, awesome effects. And then VHS 2 came along, which wasn't great. It wasn't all that terrible, but it certainly didn't live up to the predecessor. And then VHS Viral came out, and it was bad. What the fuck is this? And we all know what it's like when one of your favourite franchises takes a nosedive and you just sort of fall out of love with it for a while. And that's exactly what happened with VHS and me. When 94 came out, I just didn't care, which is probably why it wasn't featured on any of my best or worst lists for this year. But all of that changed last night when I thought I'd finally get over myself and go check it out. And oh my god, is this a return to form? I had to actually sleep on it last night because I thought, is it just that my expectations were so earth-shatteringly low that I liked it more than I actually did? But no, VHS 94 literally smashes it out of the park. In short, it's back to the original themes of the OG, which is short stories designed to terrify. Flying Succubus! VHS 94 is a gore fest with great creatures, edge-of-your-seat storytelling, and just incredible practical effects. It's beautiful. No major spoilers about this movie. I am going to talk through all 4 of the segments though, but my goal in this is to get you to go out and watch the movie, and I want you to be able to do that without knowing what the major scares are so you can feel it in the same way that I did. The wraparound story isn't really anything to write home about, but it very rarely is in these anthology movies. Its main purpose for existing is just to introduce us to the segments, of which in this movie there are 4. Other than Southbound or Creepshow, I don't think many anthologies really do it all that well. Although if you guys know some, let me know down in the comments. I don't need it to be incredible, I just need it not to suck. It's like a waiter at a meal. As long as they do okay, you don't really notice it. It's unobtrusive. It's only when they pull the pants down and take a shit at your table that you start to notice.
Did you just take a crap on my desk?
And take a dump at the table, this absolutely does not. VHS 94 sets the scene with a SWAT team performing a drug bust. But when they get inside, all is not as it seems, surrounded by gore, and even worse, 90s TV sets. Damn, those things really were huge, weren't they? As a kid growing up in the 90s, if you wanted to wall mount one of them things, you had to apply for goddamn planning permission. So the TVs with dead bodies watching them is kind of our window into the movie. And this is how we get introduced to our first episode, The Storm Drain.
This is the remarkable story of the Rat Man.
So The Storm Drain, directed by Chloe Okuno, centers around Holly, who is a journalist slash TV reporter, and her cameraman Jeff, and they're reporting on weird sightings of a strange creature dubbed as the Rat Man. So the Rat Man is this weird monster-like thing that all the locals have been seeing, and we start out with her interviewing various locals about sightings and so on. There's some really weird characters. And the beauty of this segment is how it builds. So they end up in the Storm Drain, because why wouldn't you? It's a horror movie. And they're exploring the terrain. Jeff wants to pull back, but Holly's really keen to get the big story. There's some link in there to overcome alcoholism, I'm not too sure. The characters aren't hugely deep, but they're likeable enough. And there's some great tension built in the Storm Drain itself whilst they're exploring and going around corners. They end up bumping into some locals, and from then, things get bonkers. I don't want to give too much away about it. There's a creature that I really like the look of. It's gory, and the ending, you just don't see it coming. I think this is one of my all-time favourite segments in any VHS, possibly in any anthology. It would feel more at home possibly on All Hallows Eve or something like that. It's got that kind of hard edge vibe to it. The story is just so macabre and ridiculous and stupid, and it's something that was just so badly missing from VHS 2 and 3. And if you're anything like me whatsoever, the ending of this segment will have you just like squealing with glee. It's just that joyful. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. For me, this one is a solid 5 out of 5. Now, the second segment is called The Empty Wake, where we follow a young girl as she supervises a late night wake in a funeral home. Exactly why they're filming, we never really know for sure. They give some really weird excuse like the family's paying them extra to film it. It's flimsy at best. It doesn't explain why they're filming for such long periods and why there's so many different camera angles. It's about as basic a horror premise as you can possibly get. A girl is alone in a funeral home by herself with a dead body in a casket, and all is not as it seems. It's on a stormy night, lights flicker, weird noises happen, jump scares occur. It could have really easily been very boring because of how simple the premise is. The main character, Hayley, basically has to carry the entire segment by herself. It's got that kind of campfire vibe to it. It was still very entertaining, and then in the last few minutes things go utterly bonkers. There's effects, there's like a climax to the storm. Not a whole lot does happen, but there's enough to keep it spooky, and the quality pacing and the general eerie vibe is enough to give it a solid 3 out of 5. The next segment, number 3, entitled The Subject, is not only the standout in this movie, but of the entire VHS franchise. And it was directed by Timo Tjahjanto, who also did Safe Haven, which I thought was the standout on VHS 2. And it's kind of a mad scientist story who kidnaps innocent people, aiming to create a race of super something or others. Until, as always, it goes horribly wrong. And I won't give too much away because it's truly, truly brilliant. It's all filmed in first person, so it feels like one of those early 90s Doom games. And there's just tons of action, so much gore, great practical effects, a little bit of CGI, but it didn't take me out of it too much. Yeah, and so much body horror. Not so much David Cronenberg, more Shinya Tsukamoto in like Tetsuo the Iron Man, which is also a great movie. It blurs the line a lot between right and wrong, and also looks at human nature and how cold people can be, especially in militarized settings. I absolutely loved it though. It completely blew me away. Absolute 5 out of 5. Let me know what you think about this one, because I've got to know what people thought on this. The fourth and final segment of VHS 1994 is called Terror, and it's written and directed by Ryan Prowse. And it focuses on a terrorist militia group who are protesting the degradation of America with the word of Jesus Christ.
Is this a communist country or something? I thought this is America.
Which is pretty topical at the moment, but it's a novelty seeing it to a backdrop of the 90s. And the militia group are planning on attacking a government building, blaming the feds who let the country get so damn soft. And they're also in possession of some kind of super weapon, which we don't really see all that much of in the beginning. And these terrorists are made out to be like super brutal, hardcore guys. There's propaganda, there's like executions. We see him shooting this poor dude in the head over and over again, which really adds to the mystery and how hardcore they are. Although the leader, Greg, is made out to be a bit of a dimwit, which I think is intentional. And we follow this bunch of douchebags through various training exercises, and we see them planning this attack, which all revolves around this super weapon, until this party that they have gets massively out of control, as does the super weapon, and then all hell breaks loose. And the movie goes to great lengths to keep us in the dark so that we don't really know anything about this super weapon or really all that much about the plan. Not to its detriment though, it's really fun getting to know these asshole characters and seeing what they get up to. And when the end comes, you're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what it was. And again, there's some awesome practical effects going on in this one with some brilliant creature designs. It's not one of those that builds the fear for the characters so that you're worried about what happens to them. It's more just a chance to let loose and see a bunch of assholes get exactly what they deserve. So really entertaining segment, good storytelling, great bunch of characters you can't wait to see die, and a fantastic twist at the end. Overall, I'd give it a solid 4 out of 5. And then finally, we get the ending to the wraparound, which is called Holy Hell. You can see it coming a mile off, it's nothing groundbreaking, but again, it's not all that bad. It's interesting enough, and again, good effects. I'd give the wraparound story a 2 out of 5. And that is VHS 94. Wow, I was not expecting such a massive return to form from this one. It's now, what, the 4th entry into the franchise? VHS Viral I thought was the death of VHS. It was boring, wasn't scary, just felt so by the numbers and like cookie cutter. I was really disappointed by it. So when this one came around, as I said, I wasn't all that interested in seeing how it would come. But once I did, Jesus Christ, they've gone back to what brought them to the dance, which was well-crafted short stories with great narratives, interesting characters, with fantastic twist endings that made you go, oh my god. And VHS 94 is just genuinely a joyful horror movie to watch. It doesn't matter that the stories are a little bit silly or anything like that. It's just crazy and you just go with it, and that's what makes it so fun. And that's what they've done with VHS 94. Insane storylines executed to perfection. I will say though, VHS 94 is different to the first one in that it focuses so much on the gore and the practical effects. The first VHS focused on sort of suspense and eerie stories that ultimately culminated in a moment of craziness to end. Whereas this one, it's just a bonanza of special effects and gore. It's not any worse. For me, it works better. That's what I love in a horror movie. I would rate this one better than the original. It's that good. That's just me though. I love practical effects and they execute it so well here with creature designs and gore and viscera. It shocks you and it looks great whilst doing it. As for setting it in the 90s, I've no idea why they chose to set it in the 90s, but it works out really well. One thing I was so impressed about from a visual standpoint was how cohesive all the segments were in looking and feeling like it came directly out of the 90s. As a kid that grew up through the 90s, I really did feel like it came from that era. Even going as far as to put out an advert for like a veggie masher or something like that halfway through. It looks just like it's been ripped from a QVC in the 90s. It's absolutely awesome. Overall, VHS 94 is more than just a return to form. It takes the original concept and everything I loved about it and turns it up to 11. Throughout the entire movie, I was sat with a huge smile on my face, and that's usually a really good barometer to tell if it's doing its job, which it did. As I said, I prefer this to the original. If you're a long-standing fan of the franchise, I highly recommend that you give VHS 94 a chance. I think you'll be absolutely buzzing with how it goes back to its roots in terms of insane storylines and those great twist endings and the build of suspense. And it's sort of evolved into this gory, weird fright fest. If you've never seen a VHS movie before, start with this one. And then the first one. They're a fucking delight. You will absolutely love them. You can skip 2 and 3. Maybe I should review the others. Maybe next time. I don't want to ruin my buzz by having to go back and watch VHS Viral again. So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section. Let me know if you think it's as good as the others, where it ranks in your overall rating of the VHS franchise. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. And until next time, remember this. Flying succubus!